It eats away at you from the inside, doesn't it? Watching that person you know to be cruel, dishonest, who trampled on so many others to climb up, receiving promotions, praise, golden opportunities you don't even dream of having, while you strive to do the right thing, to be ethical, to help when you can, and it seems like the world simply ignores your existence. It's as if there's a cosmic inversion where evil is rewarded and goodness is punished. You wonder if it wouldn't be better to abandon your principles, become more selfish, more calculating, more cruel. After all, why continue being good if it only brings frustration and stagnation? This feeling of injustice burns like acid in your stomach. But what if I told you there's a cold, almost scientific explanation for this apparently absurd phenomenon? A Dutch philosopher named Spinoza unraveled this disturbing equation over 3 centuries ago. Brace yourself, because what you're about to discover won't comfort you, it will transform you. This isn't a sweet answer, it's a cutting truth that can completely change your perspective on what it really means to win in life. How many times have you witnessed this? The colleague who steals credit from others being chosen to lead the most important project. The influencer who spreads misinformation gaining millions of followers while serious professionals struggle to be heard. The businessman who exploits employees building empires and being celebrated as a visionary on magazine covers. It seems we live in a world where ethics is an obstacle to success, where kindness is seen as weakness and honesty as naivety. We were taught that you reap what you sow, that good always triumphs in the end, but reality shows us something completely different. Were we deceived our whole lives? Did our mothers lie when they said being good would be rewarded? Maybe the truth is that we're playing a game where we don't know the real rules, where our morality is actually a handicap that prevents us from competing on equal terms. This anguish isn't yours alone. It's a silent epidemic. Millions of people wake up every day confronting this same brutal contradiction between what they expected from life and what they actually witness. They observe a theatre where villains receive standing ovations while heroes are forgotten backstage. And it's exactly at this point of despair that philosophy can offer us not a comforting embrace, but a surgical flashlight to illuminate the shadows of this bewildering reality. To understand this apparent inversion of values, we need to know Baruch Spinoza, a Dutch Jew who lived in 17th century Holland. He wasn't an academic in ivory towers. He made his living polishing lenses for telescopes and microscopes. Ironically, a man who saw the world with almost painful clarity. At 23, he was expelled from Amsterdam's Jewish community. His crime? Thinking differently. His ideas were so revolutionary, they terrified both Jews and Christians. He lived as an outcast, supporting himself with manual labor, developing a philosophy that questioned everything: God, morality, free will, the very nature of reality. Spinoza wasn't a romantic dreamer. He was a ruthless dissector of the human condition. He applied to philosophy the same precision he used to polish lenses, removing illusions, distortions, leaving only naked, raw truth. His approach was almost mathematical. If you want to understand why things happen, abandon your desires about how they should happen. Prepare to dive into cold, crystalline waters. What Spinoza discovered about human nature and the workings of the universe will challenge every fiber of your sense of justice. Imagine a universe where there's no cosmic scorekeeper of moral points, where there's no supreme judge distributing prizes to the good guys and punishments to the bad ones. For Spinoza, this consoling fantasy is exactly that, a fantasy. In his radical vision, God isn't a separate entity judging our actions from a heavenly throne. God is nature itself, every atom, every force, every physical law. There's no division between sacred and mundane, between the divine and material realms. Everything is one infinite substance operating according to precise mathematical rules. In this Spinozan cosmos, concepts like good and evil don't exist objectively. They're labels we stick on things based on how they affect us. Rain is good for the farmer and bad for someone who organized a picnic. A virus isn't intrinsically malevolent. It just follows its biological programming to reproduce. This first revelation is brutal. the universe is morally neutral. It has no preferences, doesn't root for anyone, doesn't punish or reward. It's like a giant computer executing code, complex, fascinating, but completely indifferent to our personal dramas. Accepting this means abandoning the comforting illusion that there's cosmic justice working behind the scenes. The first step to understanding why bad people prosper is recognizing that the universe itself isn't playing the moral game we imagine. Now that we've destroyed the illusion of cosmic morality, Spinoza presents us with a revolutionary concept, what he calls conatus, a Latin word meaning the fundamental impulse that drives all things to persist in existence and expand their power of action. Think of this as a universal life force. A plant grows toward the sun not out of goodness or evil, but because following the light increases its power to live. An animal hunts not out of cruelty, but because feeding strengthens its capacity to exist. Even a rock resists erosion, maintaining its form as long as possible. In human beings, this conatus manifests as our deep impulse to not just survive, but thrive, grow, increase our influence and capacity for action in the world. It's the force that makes us seek knowledge, relationships, resources, recognition, everything that expands our power to be. Here's the disturbing key. People we call evil aren't violating cosmic laws. They're actually following their conatus more directly and uninhibitedly. When someone lies to get a promotion, manipulates others for advantage, or steps on anyone to climb the hierarchy, they're simply expressing their impulse to increase power and influence without the filters most consider essential. It's not that they're rewarded by the universe for being evil. It's that their actions, stripped of ethical considerations that might restrain them, are sometimes simply more effective at achieving specific material goals in a competitive and often amoral world. But wait, does this mean Spinoza justifies cruelty and dishonesty? Absolutely not. And here enters the most sophisticated distinction of his philosophy, the difference between being driven by destructive passions versus being guided by reason. When someone acts dominated by envy, greed, hatred, or fear, Spinoza says they're in a state of bondage. Even if they appear externally powerful, accumulating wealth, destroying rivals, manipulating systems, internally, they're slaves to these toxic emotions. They're not free. They're marionettes of their own compulsions. True freedom, according to Spinoza, comes from reason. When we understand our own nature, the laws governing human emotions, and our interconnection with other beings, we begin to act in genuinely intelligent ways. And real intelligence shows us that cooperation, honesty, and generosity aren't moral weaknesses imposed by religion or society, but superior strategies for a fulfilling life. Think of someone consumed by envy. They might succeed in sabotaging rivals and winning temporarily, but they live in constant internal hell. There will always be someone new to envy, always a new threat to eliminate. There's no peace, no lasting satisfaction, just an infinite cycle of paranoia and dissatisfaction. Contrast this with someone who rationally understands that their prosperity is linked to others' prosperity, who builds relationships based on genuine trust, who finds joy in their own and others' growth. This person experiences what Spinoza calls active joy, a real increase in power that comes from alignment between reason and action. So, evil people might be winning at the superficial game of resource accumulation, but they're losing catastrophically at the deeper game of authentic human fulfillment. Their success is a Pyrrhic victory that masks a profound existential defeat. But let's be pragmatic. Why do these strategies work so well in the real world? Why does lack of scruples often seem like a superpower? First, people without ethical restraints have a speed advantage. While you ponder whether a decision is fair, if it will hurt someone, if it aligns with your values, they've already acted. In environments where speed and aggression are rewarded, like certain financial markets or political disputes, this impulsiveness can be decisive. Second, they exploit what Spinoza would call inadequate ideas in others. Most people operate with confused concepts about justice, loyalty, and reciprocity. Those without these filters see clearly others' blind spots and exploit them without hesitation. It's like playing chess against someone who can see all the pieces while you play blindfolded by your own moral expectations. Third, many human systems were designed by and for people who prioritize results over methods. Corporations focused only on quarterly profits, social networks that reward engagement at any cost, politics that values popularity over competence. These are environments where predatory behaviors don't just survive but flourish. Additionally, there's the deterministic factor Spinoza emphasized. Some people were simply shaped by genetics, experiences, environment, in ways that make them naturally more apt at navigating competitive systems without the psychological weight of guilt or excessive empathy. It's not black magic or cosmic conspiracy. It's just cause and effect operating in a world that, in many spheres, still functions more like a jungle disguised as civilization. So, if people without scruples have evident practical advantages, should we simply surrender and adopt their tactics? Spinoza offers us a disturbing answer. That would be like trading diamonds for colored glass. The fundamental error lies in how we define success. If success is just accumulating more zeros in the bank account, more followers on social media, more titles on the resume, then yes, sometimes cruelty works better. But Spinoza challenges us. Is this really winning? Or is it just winning an insignificant competition? For him, true power isn't dominating others, but mastering oneself. True wealth isn't having more, but needing less to be happy. True influence isn't making others obey you, but inspiring them to become their best versions. The Spinozan victory is conquering mental serenity, developing deep understanding of the world, cultivating genuine relationships based on mutual respect, and finding joy that doesn't depend on comparison with others or external validation. Imagine two people, one a billionaire who sleeps poorly, distrusts everyone, lives medicated against anxiety and depression, another who earns enough to live with dignity, has true friendships, wakes up curious about the day ahead, feels connected to something greater than themselves. Who's really winning? Spinoza would say the second person is unimaginably richer, even if they never appear on most successful people in the world lists. But how do you apply this Spinozan wisdom in daily life, when you still need to pay bills and deal with people who play dirty? Philosophy can't be just pretty theory. It needs to be a practical tool. First pillar, develop radical emotional intelligence. Study human passions like a scientist studies viruses. When someone manipulates you, don't react emotionally. Analyze. What fear or insecurity is driving this person's behavior? Understanding the mechanisms behind cruelty makes you immune to manipulation and allows you to respond strategically instead of reacting impulsively. Second pillar, build true power through competence and authentic relationships. Instead of trying to compete in the dirty game, create your own game. Make yourself indispensable through real skills. Cultivate a network of people who trust you not out of fear or interest, but out of genuine admiration. This kind of influence is slower to build, but infinitely more solid and lasting. Third pillar, practice what Spinoza would call active joy. Find satisfaction in the process, not just the results. When you derive genuine pleasure from personal growth, from creating real value, from contributing to something greater than yourself, you become less vulnerable to frustrations caused by others' success, achieved through questionable means. This doesn't mean being passive or naive. It means playing a more sophisticated game, where you build a life that can't be easily destroyed by others, where your happiness doesn't depend on defeating anyone, where your definition of victory is so personal and deep that others' superficial conquests become irrelevant. It's the difference between being a desperate warrior fighting for scarce resources and being an architect building something unique and valuable that only you can create. So, returning to our initial question, why do good things happen to bad people? Spinoza's cold answer is multifaceted and, I admit, hard to swallow at first. The universe isn't distributing rewards based on our moral code. It's neutral, operating according to natural laws that make no distinction between saints and villains. People we call evil sometimes prosper because their impulses, stripped of ethical filters, can be more effective at conquering material objectives in imperfect systems we ourselves created. But, and this is the but that changes everything, this prosperity is superficial. They're winning a smaller game while losing the bigger one. They're accumulating external resources while impoverishing themselves internally, conquering power over others while remaining slaves to their own destructive compulsions. Spinoza invites us to a personal revolution, to completely redefine what it means to win. It's not about defeating the bad on their turf. It's about building your own turf where victory means wisdom, serenity, and genuine connection with life. The next time you see someone bad prospering, remember, you're observing someone who conquered chips in a game not worth winning, while you might be building wealth in a dimension they don't even know exists. The true revolution isn't external, it's internal. And you, what do you think of this radical perspective from Spinoza? Can you see the difference between winning at the superficial game and winning at the deep game of existence? Or do you still feel this explanation is too cold for a reality that seems so unjust? If this journey through the ideas of this revolutionary philosopher made you question your own definitions of success and failure, if it gave you a new lens to see the apparent injustices of the world, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more philosophical explorations that challenge our most comfortable certainties. But mainly, tell us in the comments, how do you intend to apply this Spinozan wisdom in your life? What kind of game do you choose to play from now on? Your reflection might inspire others who are going through the same transformation of perspective. See you in the next philosophical exploration.